Hello everyone, I'm Chris from HC Media, and tonight we'll be showcasing the winners of the 2014 Haverhill Write-A-Way Contest. This 23rd annual Write-A-Way Contest event promotes and celebrates creative writing by students in Haverhill Public Schools. 2,323 short stories and poems were entered into this year's contest, and today we will watch and listen as the victors read their winning pieces. Starting us off tonight is 4th grader Sophia Delakai with her short story, Diary of a Total Nerd.
My name is Sophia Delakai. I just finished going to Pentucket Lake. I'm going to J.G. Whittier Middle School next year. My teacher was Mrs. Rivera and Mrs. Marr. Well, I like the really nice kids there. I have tons of friends and they always look out for me. Well, I really like those books like Dork Diaries, Diary of a Wimpy Kid. I can't think of that other name. Dear Dumb Diary. I really like those books, so I thought I could do my own diary book. I handed it in on the due date. It took me a while, and I took some breaks from it. I felt really amazing because my principal, Mrs. Connolly, she announced it on the speakers. Everyone in my classroom was like crossing their fingers and praying they'd get it, and I just felt great because everyone was clapping for me. I just was so proud of myself. I didn't know I was that good of a writer. Diary of a Total Nerd by Sophia Delakai. I know, I'm a total nerd, but that doesn't mean I can't have a journal. Oh, those cool kids call it a diary. So when I write things down in here, just note, I'm a full-on nerd and proud. Hello, journal, diary, thingamaboober. So today was, well, in my opinion, great. Well, mostly. I got picked on again by the meanest and most popular of all girls in the school, Jennifer. But on the other hand, I'm used to it. She picks on Doug first. Her boyfriend helps her. Then she goes for me because he is 4 lockers away from me. It's pretty simple. On the other hand, it was better than a normal day for me. That's because, well, why do you have to write this down? Wait, why am I writing this diary thing? Where do I even get this? Oh yeah, Aunt Lynn got this for me because she thought I was cool and the diary is cool too. Anyway, how about some math problems from yours truly? 6 times 2 equals 12. Easy. 9 times 9 equals 81. Easy. 12 times 12 equals 144. Easy. See, that just proves I'm a nerd. I hate being a nerd. Anyway, I'll just talk about what went on today like I do in all those diary books. Okay, so when I woke up, I started heading downstairs, and of course my dad was already down there. You might think he was eating or cooking breakfast, but no. He was doing what he always does in the morning. Doing push-ups while dividing and multiplying. As you can see, he's a nut job. When it was time to go to school, I quickly snuck 10 cookies and quickly slid out the door, running. And out of all people, guess who I had to run into? Jennifer. Out of all people, Jennifer. And of course, I made her fall and drop all of her things. I decided to do the right thing and help her pick up her things. I'm so sorry, Jennifer. I tried to apologize. You better be, you idiot, she said back. It really was what I expected to hear. It really wasn't what I expected to hear, but Jennifer is Jennifer, and she always will be. I picked up her stuff anyways, and what was mostly in her bag, you ask? There's mostly makeup and magazines. Are you sure you'll need that for school? I asked. Bad move, Zoe. You'll never believe what she did. She unzipped my bag, poured everything in it out. Spread it everywhere. and got out her phone and called her boyfriend to tell him just what happened. After that, I went to school and acted like nothing happened. Eventually, I found my friend Liv and her BFFL, best friend for life, Red. Hey, I started to say, OMG, Zoe, you'll never believe what just happened to us. Like, Jennifer just asked us to go to her pool party, and somebody just asked Liv out, Red said. I was so mad, jealous, that somebody asked Liv out. But instead I said this, Liv, did you say yes? Why wouldn't I? Liv said. After that sad conversation, I had all my classes, blah, blah, blah. When it was just about time to go, I wondered why I haven't seen Jennifer's boyfriend. But then I saw him. He was tall, skinny. He had brown hair that swayed every step he took, and crystal blue eyes. Hey, I heard what you did to Jennifer. Not cool, he said. Tell her I'm sorry and that it was a total accident. My name's Zoe. I said like an idiot. Okay, I'll tell her that, and I'm Jacob. He said in the way that makes me want to melt into a puddle. Wait, no, this can't be happening. Fallen in love with Jennifer's boyfriend. Hello again thing that I write in. My writing teacher wants me to practice writing in cursive, so I'll write down a few random things to get this over with. God, cursive just makes everything look all fancy and proper. It's weird. So at school today, I met Jacob again. Shh, he told me a secret. Here it is. Jacob's real name is Brandon. Awkward. TGIF, 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 TGIF. I don't know if I told you this or not, but every Friday, this big group of people from our school go around chanting TGIF, which apparently means, thank God it's Friday. Anyhow, it's actually really late at night, so I have to do math homework like I do every night, so bye. Saturday, March 2nd. So, I don't really know what to say, so I guess I'll just have to write down what happened today. I'm going to start this from when I got to school. When I got to the park, it was pretty normal, except when I saw Jennifer walk by me. Just so you know, diary thing, I always go to the park on Saturday. Here's what she said. Yeah, know what? I'm sorry. I'm sorry for nothing. I think it's pretty clear they want to push me down. And how dare you take advantage of Brandon? I mean Jacob. Easy, hotshot. I would never try to push you down. And I did not take advantage of him. And I already know his real name's Brandon, I said back. Goon, she said to me. Then she walked away. Pretty simple. Then I saw Brandon walk towards Jennifer. Oh, snap. I mumbled. I knew Jennifer was talking about what just happened to her. I know that because I saw Brandon glare at me, then turn his head around as if he was disgusted. I turned my head away so I'd feel less shame. To be honest, I felt no less shame. Sunday, March 3rd. Anyhow, I don't like to write on Sundays, and nothing really happens on Sundays, so I'll write in you tomorrow. Monday, March 4th. Hey, diary journal thing. I actually think you're making me a little bit more normal than before. Before I was a big nerd, and now I feel more normal. I feel normal! Anyhow, I still got fresh talked to by you-know-who, Jennifer. I'll tell you how it started in a simple sort of way. Brandon dumped Jennifer. Jennifer thinks it's my fault and is calling me a nerdy troll. Now Jennifer is out to get me. Very simple, actually. And I don't remember if I wrote this down on the list yet, but Jennifer is now out to get me. And I'm pretty worried on what will happen to me, because who knows what she can do to a helpless person like me. Also, I discovered something very new to me. Red's actual name is Sophia, and Liv's real name is Olivia. I found it out because it's just that they have nicknames for each other. I find it rather cool. I wish I had a BFF sometimes. Give each other nicknames, constant sleepovers, whispering during class, saying our crushes, and other fun things like that. Olivia and Sophia are lucky they're best friends with each other because both of them are really great. Bye now. Tuesday, March 5th. Hi, diary, thing, journal, whatever I want to call this. This gossip is going around school that this teacher's pet is trying to take Olivia away from Sophia, and that she keeps making Sophia cry every time she sees them together. I feel for Sophia. That's really sad. Do you remember how I said I really wanted a BFF? I still don't have one, but I do think I might get one soon. I just met this really nice girl named Rachel. I think she gets me, except she's really kooky, which is great if you're a nerd like me looking for a friend or best friend. I really don't get how I keep confusing people's names all the time. It's so weird. Next thing you know, I'll find out that Rachel's real name is Emily or Veronica. I hope that won't happen, so knock on wood. Sometimes I wish there were no such thing as boys, and I'll tell you tomorrow why I feel like that. Wednesday, March 6th. The reason I wish that there was no boys around, because they just go around breaking your heart and going gaga over all the pretty girls. It's so annoying. Here's why I'm saying that. For some reason, I decided to ask Brandon out for dinner. The second I saw him, I said, "Hi, Brandon. I was wondering if you would maybe want to go out for dinner with me. I know it's a great Italian place." I know he's Italian. It's called Italy Here. He looked at me like he saw a fat woman's foot fungus. "No, thanks," he said, then he ran off to Jennifer. My heart was totally crushed. Thursday, March 7th. Hello, diary journal thing I write in. The reason I'm writing in blue is that our art teacher gave the class color pens to use and keep, and we only got one color to use. And I was the last to choose a color because of my name, Zoe. So I got stuck with blue. Also, I have to practice my shapes. I'll draw 3 more. Sunday, May 1st. I cannot believe what my little sister just did. You probably felt this diary thing, but my little sister just ripped out about a month of diary journal entries. But at least I can get one more. At least I can get more. Recently, though, I learned how to actually draw well. I'll show you. Pretty good, huh? Anyway, unfortunately, this is my last page, thanks to my little sis. Bye, diary thing.
Great job, Sophia. It's nice to know that Zoe is a bigger nerd than I am. Next, it's time for something a little more spooky. And who doesn't like a good ghost story? 5th grader David Corcoran cleverly wrote a scary story based on a graveyard that his family assembles each year on Halloween. The graveyard has become a bit of a neighborhood spectacle, but the story is totally fake. Or is it?
I am David Sungjan Corcoran. I go to Constantino Middle School and I am in 5th grade. My favorite subject is science. Every year we do like a graveyard for our neighborhood, and it was like I just wanted to do a scary story, and it was actually one of my assignments at school for a scariest story, and then I wrote about what we do and then made up these cool little things and added more detail, and then my teacher gave me an A+, and then she said, She said I should put it into the Ride Away contest. Oh, I felt really excited when it announced at my school, like hearing my name on the loudspeaker. The Gravestone by David Corcoran. Every year, my family and I make our front yard into a graveyard for the Halloween season. It has been a big hit with the little trick-or-treaters. Every year, we add more and more scary things to make it better and more terrifying. Incidentally, we made our own gravestones out of some spare wood and paint. Then each year, we added more gravestones from the store, spiders, skulls, skeletons, and a fog machine, and play scary sounds and music through the window. It has become a tradition for our family every Halloween. This year I asked my parents, "Do we need another gravestone?" They said, "Why not?" and left it up to me and my brother to do it. Instead of making one or buying one, my brother and I got a creepy idea to go to a real graveyard across the street and get a real gravestone. That was our first mistake. It was getting dark when we pulled the wagon up the road across North Broadway and into the nearby cemetery. We found a very small, very old stone that we could get into a wagon. On it was written Frank N. Stein, 1625. We thought it was strange that there was no date when he died, but it was getting late and we had to go back before dinner. We wanted to surprise Mom and Dad, so we did not tell them about our plan. We put the gravestone right in the middle of our yard with the other graves we had made and bought from the store. "It looks perfect," my brother said. "Fits right in," I said. We put some fake spiders that were on the bushes on the new gravestone and called it a night. It was very cold outside and windy that night, and I drifted off to sleep. Suddenly I awoke to hear sounds outside my window, like a branch lightly scratching the screen. What is that sound? I thought I saw shadows at my window and movement in the sky beyond the window. I pulled my covers up and drifted off to sleep again. Again I awoke, hearing the light scratching sound on my window. So feeling brave, I went to go look to see what it was. I moved slowly to the window and leaned close to see what it was. I jumped back in horror when I saw it was the previously fake dollar store spiders crawling up the screen outside my window. I screamed, "Mom! Dad!" and my brother started crying. My parents came running up to see what was the matter. I said, "There is a spider outside my window." My dad said, "So what? Spiders live outside and can't get in." I said, "No, this is the fake one we put on our new gravestone that is moving." "Nonsense," he said, and went to the window to look. When he got close enough to see the window, he said something I can't repeat, but it started with, "Oh my God." Outside on the window were all of the plastic and colored spiders that we use for decorations in our graveyard. They were hanging on the window in a pattern spelling out something. It said, "Put it back." My dad turned and yelled at us, "What have you done?" He was white as a ghost, and that is exactly what we were dealing with. "I'm sorry, Dad. We wanted to surprise you. Really, you with a real gravestone for our front yard." So we went and took one from the cemetery. He said, "You can't do that. That's just like grave robbing, and it's both wrong and dangerous." Suddenly, all the power went out, and the wind kicked up something fierce. My dad got flashlights, and we went outside. Mom and my brother followed behind. We were terrified. The wind was blowing so hard, he could barely open the door. The gravestone we had taken had fallen over on its side, and the spiders from the window were crawling on there. "Help me," Dad said. We picked up the stone and put it in the wagon. We raced up to the street with the wind blowing and the tree branches falling all around. When we got back to the cemetery, I showed my dad where we found the stone, and we placed it back in the exact spot we found it. The wind slowed down and then stopped. We grabbed our wagon and ran back home. When we got back, the power was back on and the fake spiders were lying around the yard again. We learned a lesson that night. My family has never spoken about it again until today. The end.
Congratulations, David. I'll just be sure to sleep with one eye open tonight. Now we're shifting from the paranormal to the heartwarming. First grader Molly Kuhn defines love in her appropriately titled poem, Love.
I'm Molly Kuhn. My favorite thing about school is, well, that I get to meet my teachers. Well, my uncle kind of helped me get this started, then I just pushed my way to the end. Love by Molly Kuhn. Love is as a dove flying freely in the air. Love is like a family spending all day together. Love is like a flower blooming in the springs. Love is sweet like a stuffed animal.
Thank you, Molly. Love is a word we should all take a little more time to define. Next up is 8th grader Caitlin McCutcheon, who won for her short story, Grammy Mabel Saunders. Inspired by real-life events, Grammy Mabel Saunders is sure to bring a tear to your eye and warmth in your heart. Grab a cup of tea, sit back and relax, and enjoy Grammy Mabel Saunders.
I'm Caitlin Mary McCutcheon. I go to Nettle, and I just graduated 8th grade. I won for the first time in 1st grade, and that sort of spiked my writing interest. And then I won again in 3rd grade, and then in 4th grade, and in 7th grade, and then I won again this year. I first started writing, really, I guess, for the Right Away in 1st grade, and I have to be honest, I didn't really like writing back then. I don't know, it just didn't interest me. I was a little 1st grader. I wanted to just go outside and play. But my teacher, Mrs. Pelliccioni, sort of sat me down and was like, you can do this, and she sort of spiked my confidence. So when I wrote and I won, it made me feel like I can do this and this is fun. And I just continued writing from then on. Back in December, I believe, we got 2 cats at the MSPCA, and while we were there, there was a little old lady getting a cat, and it was just so cute to me, and I loved that idea, and I wanted to write about it. Grammy Mabel Saunders by Caitlin McCutcheon. I throw my geometry notebook in my bag and slam my locker door. I stomp down the noisy halls of Albert D. McNally High School, thinking that every step brings me closer to my new job at Jim's convenience store in Delhi. Why are my parents so stupid, I think to myself. All my friends don't have to get a job. I stop to zip up my winter coat, then shove the steel door open. A blast of cold November wind hits my face and sends a shiver down my spine. I pull up my coat around my neck and mouth and quickly jog to my car. I click my key fob and my 2003 Toyota Corolla unlocks itself. I throw my bag in the trunk and hop into the driver's seat, starting the ignition. 4 rights and 3 lefts later, I pull into the parking lot of Jim's on Whitman Ave. I leave the warmth of my car and walk 3 yards into the store, swinging open the glass door violently. I walk behind the deli counter and throw on the faded blue apron that belonged to the last 7 workers here. I quickly throw up my hair in a bun and go to check in with Jim. "Hello, Savannah," he says, meeting me halfway down the cereal aisle. "You want to learn how to man the register?" he asks, a bit overenthusiastic. I give him a polite smile, and he leads me to the front of the store. He shows me a series of buttons to press to enter produce items and coupons, and shows me how to count change. It was pretty much what I thought it would be. Boring. "Do you think you can handle the rush hour?" Jim asks, hopefully. "I think I'll survive," I respond, knowing that rush hour at Jim's Convenience in Delhi consisted with all of 5 people buying a loaf of bread or a box of Cheerios. "Okay, cadet, don't let me down," he says, walking backwards towards the dairy section. The next 4 hours are probably the most boring I've ever had to experience. I sing, I dance, I twiddle my thumbs, I watch the seconds tick by on the old dusty clock above the door. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Not a single customer. Tick-tock, silence. Tick-tock, a little more silence. Tick-tock, 7 o'clock. "Finally, I'm done," I shout, throwing my hands up in the air, locking up the cash register, and performing a little giddy dance. I run to the wall and hang up the gross blue apron on the hook. I turn to the door and it slides open to let me out. "Miss, excuse me, young lady," a barely audible voice says from behind me. I turn around and my eyes focus on a little old lady, all of about 3 feet 6 inches tall. She sees I've noticed her and she raises a hand to give me a wave. I'm so sorry, ma'am. I didn't even see you walk in, I tell her, walking quickly back to the cash register. She begins taking her items out of her cart, arms shaking as she struggles to lift the groceries to the conveyor belt. I begin to ring in the items when she puts a stick of butter in front of me. How much does this cost? She asks, her voice pathetic and quivery. That's $1.25, I respond, going back to ringing in her quart of skim milk and a box of Raisin Bran. Oh, she says, with a sad look in her eyes. I'm terribly sorry to trouble you, but I don't think I will be purchasing that. It's too expensive for me. That just makes my heart sink. I stare at the poor lady, noticing that her shoes are muddy and wet, her t-shirt is torn, and all she has for a jacket is an old yucky sweater. I glance out to the parking lot and notice it's sleeting and that there are only 2 cars in the parking lot, mine and Jim's. I completely forgot, I stutter, that there's a special offer today. With any purchase of milk, there's a complimentary stick of butter. A look of joy spreads across her face as she pulls a crumply 20 out of her own stained purse and hands it to me. I put the 20 in the register and pull out a 10, a 5, 4 ones, and an assortment of coins adding up to $1. She doesn't count the confusing change I give her, to my relief, and puts it in her purse. As she looks away, I pull a 20 from my pocket and put it in the cash drawer. Before she looks back up, I bag her pathetic selection of sale items and clearance products and place them in her cart. She puts her elbows on the handles of the carriage and begins to shuffle to the exit. I run over and jump in her path. Would you like a ride? I quickly offer. Her face relaxes as she sighs with relief, slowly nodding. A smile spreads on her exhausted face. I open the door for her and lead her to my car. I place her groceries in my trunk and make sure she settles into the passenger seat before starting the car. 24 Jefferson Square, she instructs me as I exit the parking lot. I have to turn my windshield wipers all the way up to keep my view of the road clear. Thinking about the address she just said, I realize that she lives all the way across town. How had the poor lady gotten here without a car? We finally make it to her house. I pull in the driveway and look up to see where she lives, and I found a house in a state of disrepair. The house is practically consumed by reckless shrubbery and unruly vines. Shingles on the roof are missing, and the visible paint is chipped and peeling. A nest of birds sits precariously balanced in her chimney. I fetch her groceries from my trunk and meet her at the front door, which she struggles to unlock. With a grunt and a groan, she shoves the door and it slowly creaks open. I bring her groceries into the kitchen and place them on the counter. It's apparent mice are frequent visitors in her house, and I hide my horror by speaking to the lady. Good night, ma'am, I say, giving her a polite smile. Call me Mabel, Mabel Saunders. And thank you very much, miss. I'm Savannah, I say. I work at Jim's Monday through Wednesday in the afternoons and then all day on Saturday. Don't hesitate to call me, I tell her, quickly scribbling my name and phone number on a sticky note and taping it to her refrigerator. She gives me a look of thanks as I wave to her and exit. The winter sets in quickly, and once a week I take Mrs. Saunders out grocery shopping. I pretend to shop for my family too and buy the items that she shows interest in, but then looks at the price and returns to the shelf. Then they miraculously seem to always wind up in her cupboards and refrigerator when she gets home. She never says anything about it to me, but I can tell she's on to my trick. Christmas finally arrives, and I buy her a puffy winter coat and a new red sweater. As she opens the package, a tear rolls down her cheek, and I give her a hug. She tells me she hasn't gotten a Christmas gift since her son died serving in the Army 10 years ago. Her husband was in a nursing home until he passed away last April. She's outlived all her friends, and at 89, she lives alone. I take her to my house to have Christmas dinner with my mom, dad, and my brother Sam. As I escort her through the door, my little brother runs by with his toy airplane, shouting vroom vroom and making his little plane do stunts. My mom and dad sit cuddled on the couch in their flannel Christmas pajamas. They are laughing at home videos of us in Christmases past. The Christmas tree twinkles gently in the corner, and all the new presents around it sit toppling out onto the living room floor. Through the window, the occasional snowflake flutters down. The aroma of turkey with stuffing floats in the air. My bulldog Baxter trots over, dropping his new squeaky toy at Mrs. Saunders' feet. I nudge her shoulder. He wants to play, I tell her. I crouch down to pick up the toy, wipe the drool onto my jeans, and hand it to Mrs. Saunders. She gives it a little fling, and Baxter goes wild. He grabs it, squeaking it and giving it the death shake, and falls on the floor, wrestling it endlessly. My son James, he used to have a dog, a lab. His name was Buddy. He used to be just like Eurus, but then he got sick and died. A week before James was sent to Iraq, she says. It's clear that it hurts her to think of it. I would have gotten another dog, but by now I'm too weak to walk it, she says. Oh, I say, I completely forgot to introduce you to everybody. This is my mother Nancy, my father Bob, and my brother Sam. My parents come over and shake hands, and little Sam comes over to hug her. Everybody thinks it's funny, and we all laugh, including Mrs. Saunders. Sam doesn't know why we're laughing, but he giggles with us, continuing to hug her. We sit down at the table and serve the feast. Turkey, rolls, potatoes, squash, green beans, peas, gravy, and eggnog. Mrs. Saunders digs in, and I can tell by her frame that she hasn't had a meal like this in a long time. We all chat and giggle and have a great time. After dinner, we sit around the living room and watch Christmas movies. Mrs. Saunders has a glow in her eyes I haven't seen since I met her almost 2 months ago. Mrs. Saunders, do you want anything to eat or drink? My mother asks. No thanks, dearie. I can't thank you enough for having me, she responds. Anytime you need us, we're here for you, Mrs. Saunders, Mom says. Please, call me Mabel, Mrs. Saunders says. Sam toddles over and jumps onto the love seat next to Mrs. Saunders. She smiles and pats his head. He moves over onto her lap and leans against her. Suddenly, he sits up and looks at her. Grammy Mabel, do you want to play Chutes and Ladders with me? I just got it this morning and I haven't played with it yet. Please, Grammy Mabel, please? Why, of course, Sam, she says, scooping him up and placing him on the floor. He runs over as fast as his little legs can carry him and opens the box, spilling the contents on the floor. He fumbles with the pieces and sets them up just as Grammy Mabel comes over to join him on the rug. She lets him win, purposely moving her pieces only once each turn. Once they finish their game, our parents break up the fun because Sam has to go to bed. He kisses Grammy Mabel on the cheek and runs up the stairs to his bedroom. I warm up my car and take her home for the night. Grammy Mabel, as Sam calls her, has supper at our house every night now. She's gaining a healthy amount of weight since being with us. She has a youthful gleam in her eyes now. Whenever we need it, she babysits for Sam. I take her out to brunch every Sunday and bring her to church. One day after church, I take her on a drive. We pass an animal shelter and she wants to go in. We pass the dogs because they're mainly all pit bulls and they bark too much. We agree not to stay here because we are both quickly developing headaches. We move into the cat section and pat all the kittens in the crates in the front. Then Mabel hears a weekly meow and she looks to the source. A mangy mess of white and orange fur with piercing green eyes looks at her. I go and take him out of his cage and hand him over to Mabel, who immediately falls in love with him. He purrs and cuddles her and licks her hands. I look at the informational tag on his cage and see his name is Dribbles. He's 11 years old and his last owners abused him, neglecting to feed and love him. Mabel isn't sure she's ready for a cat, but I convince her and she signs the papers for him. Using some of my Christmas money, we get him a bed with paw prints on it, a scratching post, a ton of toys, a litter box and litter, food and food dishes. We take him back to her house and he loves it. He plays with the toys, then falls asleep in the bed. I set up the food and litter box for Mabel and tell her that I will clean it when I pick her up for dinner at night. That cat is the best thing that ever happened to Mabel. Every day he greets us when Mabel comes back from supper. He licks her arthritis-ridden hands and knuckles as she feeds him leftovers from dinner. He sleeps on her feet every night and constantly walks at her side to keep her company. We don't have to set up the mouse traps anymore. Any mouse who sticks a toe into Mabel's house is quickly taken down by Dribbles, who is smart enough to jump up and drop the mouse into the trash can. Summer rolls in, and as Mabel spends more time outside, so does Dribbles. He walks on a leash next to Mabel and comes with her to my house for barbecues. Dribbles and Baxter become fast friends and romp around together while we eat hamburgers and hot dogs. One thing that never crossed my mind was college. I got accepted to Princeton, but I don't know about Mabel or how to break it to her. Sam realizes I'm sad and comes over to me. What's wrong, Savannah? He asks me. I decide to tell him about Mabel. Well, you know Grammy Mabel. I have to go to college in a week, and I just can't leave her alone. I don't know how to tell her I'm leaving to a place far away, I explain to him. Grammy Mabel can just live with us then, he says. He doesn't understand that life isn't all simple. He runs outside where my mother is watering her pansy beds. "Mommy, can Grammy Mabel live with us?" he yells at her, jumping up and down. "Well, if she wants to, I can't see why not," she says. My jaw drops. Okay, I think. Maybe life is just that simple. When I bring her back to my house for supper of corn on the cob and steak on the grill, Sam asks her if she would like to live with us. She gives a giggle, just thinking how cute he is. My mom looks at her and nods, confirming that Sam is serious, and Mabel gets a look of shock on her face. "You would do that for me?" she asks nervously. 2 weeks later, we have our basement cleared out, finished, and painted light blue. We slowly move our furniture in piece by piece, and my father and his contracting team finish off a bathroom with a senior-friendly bathtub off the main basement room. That day she moves in. She has a smile from ear to ear. She distracts Sam by playing with him and dribbles in Baxter. The rest of us move the remaining furniture in the basement and finish installing the stair lift chair so we don't have to worry about her falling. "This must be so much trouble for you," she says. "Can I pay you for it?" "Don't worry about it," Mom says. "We will do anything for family."
The McCutcheons are a talented bunch. Not only did Caitlin win first place, but her sister, 5th grader Julia McCutcheon, won as well for her short story, Chloe and Tammy. Here again is Caitlin McCutcheon and her winning sister, Julia.
This is my sister who also won. She's Julia McCutcheon. She goes to 5th grade at Nettle.
In December, my family adopted 2 cats from the MSPCA, and I wrote about getting them. I won in kindergarten, 2nd grade, and now 5th grade. It took 3 days, and I wrote it at her gymnastics classes.
We'll feed off of each other's ideas, but we don't really help edit each other's writing. Since I am less camera shy, I guess, I'm more outgoing, I will read Julia's story. Chloe and Tammy by Julia McCutcheon. "She's perfect," I yelled excitedly. "I like this one," Caitlin whispered, as not to wake up the cat on her lap. "Call Dad and ask him if it's okay with him to adopt these cats," Mom instructed me. I called my dad and begged him to get us the cats. "What did he say?" Caitlin asked anxiously after I hung up. "He said it's fine with him," I replied. "Go make sure they are the ones you really want," Mom said. "Okay, come on, Caitlin." "Let's go," Caitlin yelled so loudly you would have thought she'd won $1 million. We walked into the cat room. I could hear all the cats meowing from inside their small cages. It made me feel really bad for all the cats. "Aw, look at Squash!" Squash was an orange and white cat with a cone on her head. Yeah, that must be awful to be called Squash and wear the cone of shame. "What would you call her if she was your cat?" Caitlin asked. "I would call her Quat," I replied. "Why?" "So I could say kumquat when I called her." "Why is that one's tongue sticking out?" Caitlin questioned. "Why are you asking me? I don't know," I snapped back. We looked at all the other cats, and one of them was cute, but he didn't like kids. None of the other cats were as good as Kramer and Nunn. "Mom." "Yeah?" "We want Kramer and Nunn." "Okay, if that's what you want." "It is!" we both screamed. Then we went out to tell the volunteers that we were going to get Kramer and Nunn. They were supposed to be closing, but there was a girl there who was really excited that they were being adopted. She stayed open late for us. We picked out collars for them and got some beds and some food. Then I went with Caitlin to get the crate from the car. When we got back to the building, the door was locked, so I used Caitlin's phone to call my mom to open the door. When we got inside, I went into the cat room and got Kramer and Nunn into the crate. "Mom, are you almost done signing the papers?" I pondered. "Yeah, and then we need to pay for them." My mom paid for the cats. They were about $400. The shelter volunteer went and got their information. While my mom was learning what we had to do for them, Caitlin and I picked out new names because we didn't like Kramer and Nunn. Finally, we selected Chloe for Kramer and Tammy for Nunn. "Caitlin, which cat do you want to be yours?" I don't care. It's up to you," she replied. "I want Chloe, if that's okay with you." "Yeah, that's fine. I probably would have chosen Tammy anyways." After my mom paid, we put the cats in the car. We went back inside and thanked them for staying open late for us. Then we went back to the car and the cats were meowing like crazy. "Is everyone ready to go?" Mom asked. Yep, Meow, meow. In the middle of the car ride, Tammy started crying. Caitlin, your cat is sticking her paw out of the crate and meowing. Oh, the poor thing is probably scared to death. I asked Mom if I could open up the crate a little, and she told me I could. When I did, Tammy stuck her head out and looked around. Chloe just sat in the back of the crate and let Tammy do the exploring. When I got home, I explained who was who to my dad. He thought they were cute, but as soon as I opened the crate, they both ran under a chair. I think they are going to need a lot of time to calm down, Caitlin said. Paprika! Hungry, kitties? Mommy yelled. Chloe and Tammy came running, and they instantly sucked the food down like a vacuum cleaner. The next day, Caitlin opened the door that separates the two parts of the house. Chloe ran out and was running all around like crazy in the mudroom and hid. We couldn't find her, but we couldn't leave the door open, or Tammy could get out and hide too. We had to have everyone take turns looking for Chloe, but since she's black, we had to look for the shining of her eyes. We just sat and waited to see if she would come out. About half an hour later, Chloe came out of the back of one of the shoe cubbies. I was out there when it happened, so I picked her up and brought her into the living room. The next day was New Year's Eve, and because we had just got the cats, we were keeping them in one room. Since it was New Year's, my mom said we could sleep on the pull-out couch with the cats. At first, we tried to put the cats on the bed with us, but they didn't stay. Eventually, Chloe came up to sit on my stomach, and Tammy sat on my left arm. 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year! Both the cats were purring, and I knew it was going to be a great year.
Good work, guys. I'm definitely a cat lover now. And speaking of cats, big cats, and other animals, what if your house was full of exotic jungle and zoo animals? Does that sound like something that would be fun? Well, for 6th grader Dylan Nowell, it did. Dylan won first place for his short poem, A New Pet. Get your pen and paper handy and see if you can list all the animals in his poem.
I'm Dylan Matthew Nowell. I go to Constantino. Well, my grandmother, she doesn't like to have pets, so I thought it would be a funny idea to have pets and think of all the crazy animals there are. My principal announced it on the intercom. I felt surprised. Some of my friends actually didn't think I was going to win, and I didn't think I was going to win either, but when they heard it, they were actually surprised. A New Pet by Dylan Matthew Nowell. I bought myself an elephant, but he ate all my food. So I bought myself a gorilla, but he was kinda rude. I bought myself a hippopotamus, but he was much too fat. So I bought myself a python, I think he ate my cat. I bought myself a giraffe, but he keeps bumping his head. So I bought myself a kangaroo, but he keeps jumping on the bed. I bought myself a camel, but all he does is drool. So I bought myself an alligator, now we can't use the pool. I bought myself a lion, a tiger and a moose, a polar bear, and one Canadian goose. A porcupine, a chimpanzee, a rat, and a gazelle. I even bought myself a skunk, but couldn't stand the smell. Now there's an owl in my closet, a fox under my bed, a beaver sleeping in the sink, and the yak stuck in the shed. A ferret lives in my sock drawer, a goat just ate my shoe, and while walking by my brother's room, I just heard something moo. There was a wolf in my father's chair hogging the TV, and my mother, and the llama both looked mad at me. Now my house is filled with animals, I don't know what to do. Since they're all living here, I'm moving to the zoo.
Thanks, Dylan, but I think I'll just stick to visiting the zoo. Our final winner for tonight is 7th grader Kaylee Credit for her first prize-winning poem, Do You. Do You is a poem about bullying and one that we can all relate to. As you listen, take a moment and think about a time when you were bullied or someone you know who was bullied, and think about ways you can help them. Here's Kaylee with Do You.
Kaylee Credit, I go to Nettle Middle School. Mr. Mueller was helping us with the right-of-way, and he was telling us that we could really do anything we wanted because what you could enter was so broad and vague. So Mr. Mueller was just encouraging us to bring in anything really, but he was encouraging me to bring in one of my poems. The cause of me writing Do You was I've seen a lot of bullying in my school, and I've witnessed a lot of bullying myself, and I know that kids don't really get how much of an effect it can have on other people. So while writing Do You, I was trying to really just grasp the concept of bullying and what it can do to others. And I was just trying to get the message out of how hurtful it can be and how it could just really affect people. When I won the Right Away, I was ecstatic. I was in homeroom and they called my name on the intercom. And my whole homeroom clapped for me, and Mr. Rossi's like, "Kaylee Credit, come down, you won first place in the Right Away." So it was an awesome moment, and then I got the little invitation, and it was really exciting. Do You, written by Kaylee Credit. Do you ever think about that boy you pushed in the hall, or the girl you kept calling mean names? Do you think about them at all? Do you think about how they felt when you made them feel like dirt? Do you ever even realize how bad that they've been hurt? Do you bully because it happened to you somewhere in the dark past? Well, now the kids that you torment are praying the year goes by fast. Do you lay in bed at night praying for the pain to end, because they do every night, but they lie to their family and friends? Do you ever think about 15 years down the road when they'll be happy with a loving family and you'll still be bitter and cold? Do you remember what it was like when you didn't bring others down? Do you remember when you were the type of person everyone wanted to be around? Do you ever think about everything you put them through? There's nothing more that I want to know, so tell me, do you?
Thank you to all the winners for coming and sharing your stories and poems with us. You guys all deserve a big round of applause. Cue applause. Thank you all for joining us for the 23rd Annual Right Away Contest readings. Until next year, I'm Chris from HC Media. Good night.